Okay, so I
Thank
think
you.
we can have another start. Okay, good. So again, good morning. As I mentioned, I'm very happy and honored to be here today. I know it's the first session in the morning, so I try to keep it light and interactive as much as I can. I really hope that you can learn things and you can really use it in practice. That's absolutely a goal of my presentation. So I think you cannot see my slides, right? So I need to present it one more time. So, yes, again, just a second. I'll change to the presenter mode and then we can get started. Yes, good. So what I wanted to talk to you about today is about topic of presenting yourself with impact, storytelling and branding lessons from recruitment. I'm from recruitment, so that's why I thought I wanted to share with you my view with working with people and how could you potentially present yourself and what we could also learn from recruitment. So the agenda for today is following. I will first talk a little bit about myself, so you know who I am, what is my career path, what is my highlights and what is my lowlights. Definitely, let's define what's the goal for the workshop today. Then I'll talk a little bit about storytelling of power, storytelling of how I use that and how people can use that. I give you also a few strategies as well that I really hope that you can use in the future. They are super simple. Everything what we're going to talk today, it's not very overcomplicated. I really hope that you can come after the session and say, hey, I can really use this. I can at least try and see if it works for you. I also talk you through how can you know better yourself. What's out there, what are different communication styles, how you can brand yourself, how you can know your audience, and also how can you best tell your story with all the tools that we are going to learn. Then we'll have time at the end for Q&A and for practical practical exercise that I really hope that you enjoy. So, but the motto for the session is that find out who I am, who you are. So, who I am, who is my audience, how I can connect with that, and how we can practice it. So if everyone is ready, we can get slowly started. I'm going to talk about me first and my career path. And the way I like to talk about that is that I like this picture because I think the career is never linear. Or I have never met anyone whose career was absolutely linear. It's always always up and down. It's always a road. And I started my career in Latvia. That's where I'm from. I actually always wanted to become or to play in theater. That's what I did as a child. That was my dream. But I had an accident like shortly before the exam, so I couldn't participate in the exam. And then I was like very young. I was 17, and I was like, you couldn't do what you really want to do, but you need to pick something else. And I was like, Danish, and don't ask me why. Like I picked Danish very randomly because I thought it's most exotic language they offered from all the language studies I could pick. So I picked Danish. Bit of a in desperation mode, I think. But Danish did help me a lot, although I successfully learned it and successfully forgot it for now. But it helped me to start my career. I did the studies in Scandinavian languages and culture. I lived in Denmark for a while, and I didn't know how to use it, how to use the studies. So there was a little bit of exploring what is out there for me, and I found a kind of a startup, a company, Danish company that were building office actually it was Norwegian Danish company building the office in Riga, and I said that I can speak Danish, which were partially true, partially not, but no one in that office could speak Danish, so I got the job. And then once I I got the job, we actually bankrupt. We built up a business that didn't work out. That was kind of also low light right here. But the highlight is that we managed to open our own agency, headhunting / recruitment agency that still exists, that's still there in Baltics. Later on, I basically made decision to move to Switzerland. There was a bit of a personal reasons behind that. And in Switzerland, it was super hard because I came here, it was like very entrepreneurial mind, very young, but nothing what I did so far was actually useful for Swiss market. No one knew the company, I couldn't speak German, I studied something completely irrelevant to Swiss market. So it took me a while to find a job. It took me, I think, 7 months to find a job. And then I needed to take something that I maybe not necessarily wanted to, but I took the job at the recruitment agency to build the pharmaceutical business, to work with the pharmaceutical clients, to find candidates from them. The highlight, I got the job, and the low light, it didn't work. So actually they closed that department very shortly, but I managed to get another job internally. That's where I stayed for some time. And then I also did another studies, which is not here. I did HR certificate studies here in Switzerland. I wanted to learn more about Swiss market, and I started to apply. It took me 2 years to find another job. Like while I was working, I was applying and I was looking, and I was really wanted to make a change and go internally. And that's how I got the job at Google. The highlight was I got the job, and it was a super interesting job, and I worked there for 10 years. I worked a lot with PhDs, postdocs as well, and also for others, with other students for different programs. But the low light was there that they closed my department in 2023, so I lost my job. I was laid off, so there was always highlight and low light. But the highlight there was I just started the studies. I did executive MBA at the University of St. Gallen, and I thought that, okay, maybe it's time to take a break to focus on my studies. That's what I did. I did the studies in business. I really wanted to learn business, like proper theory, right, to really have a degree in business. And closer to the end of the study, I started to look for a job, and I found this job. So that's where I am today. And very shortly, what I'm working on is that I'm working on building a career center that serves for research institutes. It's sort of a new thing, a pilot project, if I can call so. The career center here at PSI existed for already good 3-4 years, but the career center for all the research institutes is very new. I'm very excited about that. That's also how I get to know a few people on this call, and I got invited to this webinar. So that's my career path. That's a bit of my story. So what is the goal of the workshop today? What do I want you to learn, for us to learn together? I really would like to help you as much as I can to communicate your research with clarity and confidence. So identify your personal communication style. I think it's the most important is about communication is to know your style, to know how people see you. That's something we tend to maybe forget to think about. And what is our core message? What is my message I would like to bring to people? How to adapt your story to different audiences. And I think that's something that you probably face. I'm not sure about daily, but sure monthly or weekly when you need to meet with different stakeholders. And also maybe you could after that work on crafting a short memorable self-introduction. So that's the goals for the workshop. For the storytelling, why storytelling and why I wanted to bring this topic up. I think that we sometimes tend to maybe neglect how important is the storytelling, right? When we talk about the facts, about research, about very serious, important things, facts, right? But actually stories connect emotions and reasons, and people really remember us about how we made them feel a lot. It's not only like facts, it's also how we made them feel. And the story needs to be like very structured, people should be able to relate to that and emotionally engage. So for the storytelling, what we say is that a great storytelling would be that you have some logic, you have the story, and I give you some real example. We work with a real example. Now it's a bit of a theory. You need to have some logic, some emotions and actions. And that's how you can make really interesting story. From everything what you want to talk about, you can make a story. And I think it's also part of the reason why I took a good 5 minutes to talk about my story, is just to give you an example that you can maybe relate. And I told this story already a few times to different audience, and people could relate to different things that you'll be surprised. For example, some people told me, oh, I could relate that I moved to Switzerland and couldn't speak German. Or people said, oh, I could actually relate that I also needed to maybe study something I did not plan, or something happened unplanned, or I worked, tried to build the business, it didn't work out, So it's like people can relate to something, and then they have interest, you sparkle their interest, and then how they start to listen to understand more what you're talking about. And the very famous phrase, of course, facts tell and the stories tell. It's from Brian Eisenberg, who is very, very, very well known in marketing. And that's in a way true. I know that in research, we don't like to talk about selling, right? It's like, I don't know if we like selling. And I also, when I started my career, I was also always thinking, oh, I don't like selling. I'm not sure how to. Actually, it's something positive. We can take it as something positive, that the selling is actually how we introducing facts, how we talk about our research, how we make sure it's known. So what I have done, I have been in recruitment for 20 years. I have seen thousands of applications, and I must tell you, I still remember some stories and some don't. And it was really very different how the person presented that, how they talked about their story, how they make it relatable and interesting to me, to the listener. And that's made really big difference, because also when you go out there to the audience, if it's like the CV, right? If all CVs are the same, how are you supposed to remember, right? How are you supposed to think, oh, this was really like good candidate, interesting candidate? Only because if something stands up, is something that you can relate, or something that really rises sparkle and interest in you. So why it matters to you, why it's important to you. So I think that sometimes I think that the brilliant work, very good work, could really get unnoticed. It's just because I also do a lot of career coaching sessions. Some of you were with me in the career coaching session. And I must say, every time I'm really surprised that people like, oh, I just work on this. And then it's like, can you tell me more? And then they tell you like, wow, okay. So you done something nobody ever done before. You'd have such a great results. You could help this and that. But people are like, oh, I just work on this one. That's just really how you communicate what you're working. And it's very sad if something really important gets really unnoticed. And I think that storytelling helps other people also to see why your work matters. And the way that in an interview, when we talk about ourselves, right, we try to attract employer, the same way you could think that when you talk your story, you can also attract collaborators, founders, publishers, anyone else. So it's actually your audience. You can kind of say the correlation, right, between the interview and how you talk to other people. You could use the similar techniques. So is it good so far? Everyone is on board? Good. Everyone is okay. Good. Great to hear. So okay, sorry, I didn't want to do that. So frameworks. The frameworks, I want, as I told you, I'm the person who likes you to go away from this session, or I learned something simple, but I can maybe try even today. So can you maybe promise me that you try something today, at least something from these frameworks? Can I give you a promise? Okay, good. At least one. So one is from recruitment that you're probably aware of. It's super simple. It's a STAR technique that you probably heard about. It's situation, task, action, results. And we're going to look at some examples later. Then another one is the situation, challenge, discover, and impact. It's very similar in the structure. It's just kind of different names, but I would say it's really a similar structure. The one that, for example, not everyone know or uses ABT is and, but, therefore. There's some kind of narrative, how you can structure the narrative. There's a hero's journey that you can talk about your research from the hero perspective, and we look at some examples. I think it's quite funny. Maybe you can use it like when you talk to kids, for example. That could be like you can like tell like I don't know something like a fantasy hero. Maybe you could use it there. And there's this message map with a one core message and the supporting pillars. There you could there would I know people mainly use it for business or for marketing, but you could kind of think, okay, this is the marketing people, this is the business people, they might relate to that. So that's how I would use this ones. So the examples. So I try to think about different examples because we talk about the biodiversity, right? As well, I think maybe some biodiversity example could be good for today. So we have the original story. We have the story when we say, okay, the biodiversity is essential for life on Earth. What it does, for example, in the story, we say, okay, it's important. It supports healthy ecosystem. It gives us food, clear water, medicine. But human action sometimes can pollution, climate change can destroy the habits, for example, and also influence to many species, or also sometimes they are dying out because of the human action. And protecting the biodiversity means protecting the natural system that sustain all forms of life, including our own. It's a bit of like a general phrase, like a general story. But I wanted to bring it up. It's a simple one, but just okay, how can I tell this story different, right? How can I tell the story more interesting or using these techniques? And the first one is STAR. So situation is that, for example, the global diversity or biodiversity is declining due to habitat loss, pollution, and climate change. So what is the situation I'm talking about? This is the situation, right? I'm talking about. First, when you say the story, this is the situation. What have I done? What the scientists have done, right? The scientists needed, or me, for example, researcher needed to identify the ways to protect the ecosystem. So what that situation, that's what was asked for me, right? As a scientist, what I was supposed to do. What the action I took was, okay, I collaborated with ecologists, with policymakers, with different stakeholders on the project, and basically, and the result of that was that these efforts led to measurable increase in native species or raise the public awareness, whatever it is. But once you have this super simple structure, every time you tell the story, is it the interview or you're talking to a friend or colleague, try to just use it, and you promise me, so right, you use it at this one or another one, just when you talk about that, and see how people react. Is it easier for people to understand? Do they follow it? And you can really try different ones and see which one works for you. But have you heard about that before? Have you heard about the STAR technique before? Oh, okay. But this is very known in recruitment. This is also very helpful when someone asks you in the interview, right? What have you done? Can you give me an example of this in this situation? For example, when you manage to have successful outcome or increases this and this, and then you can really follow the steps. It also helps a little bit. I feel like it's not only helps to structure, it helps also to calm down, because we're all nervous also in interviews sometimes, like, okay, I have a structure, I do 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's might be helpful. So then we have another one. Oh, sorry. Yes. So we have the same story right here. We talk about biodiversity here, but we have a different technique. We have an ABT technique, which is and, but, therefore. So first we kind of start similar. We start, okay, what is the situation? So what we're talking about? We're talking about biodiversity keeps our planet and ecosystem balanced, provide us with food, with clean water and medicine. So what is going on? What is the situation? Okay, we start again the situation. Then we say, but, but what? But the humanity activity might have some negative influence to it, right? And then therefore, the protecting biodiversity is very important to save animals and save the planet. And that's another technique, very simple. That's what's going on. But has a negative influence, and therefore I'm working on this and this. So that's also kind of make the story a little bit more interesting than rather just kind of going line by line. And the hero journey is a bit funny. I find it like, but I find it's nice. Like you can use it as I say, as maybe for children when you can say like a story. For example, you are the young researcher and you were fascinated by the connection to the nature and understand how the ecosystem works and why the species disappear. And along the way, like what you understood, what you maybe learned or experienced, and through the collaboration discoveries, you made sure that you can improve it, and you return to the field, show what you done, what you improve. So like it's really kind of like a story, like a children's story. Like here, you are the hero, you are the researcher here, right? What have you done? What was your research? Why you are here? What could you done differently? And then the message map is, as I say, it's more used for business. Again, we go with the core message always in the end, except the maybe hero one. You always say, okay, this is the main message I want to bring to my audience. The biodiversity is essential for life on Earth. That's like the message, right? And then the first pillar, then you have like a supporting fact, so supporting feel why it's important, because it's ecosystem services, provides, as we say, food, water, health resources. It's also human threat. So because of that, we need to keep the biodiversity. It's destroying the climate. There's a climate change. It could also, in a way, influence negatively to people if we don't look after diversity or take care of that. And call to action. So what do we need to do to restore it, to adopt sustainable practices? So you can always have a similar structure. That's the core messages, and that's the main facts I want to follow with the core messages. So which one sounds interesting, or which one would you like to try today? Maybe you can write in the chat, or not sure if I will see the chat, but if anyone could read it up.
Seems that more people, so far 3 people are interested in star. I'll throw my hat in the ring too, so far 4.
Good. So I think star is really good. I think it's simple, it's easy, but sticks with you, right? And then you can always use it, should help you. Knowing yourself, right? So before we tell the story, we need to know ourselves. So what is my communication style? How do people see me? And how I can use different communication styles? Because I think I would not say most of us, but I would say some of us just communicate, but never really take a step back or ask someone, okay, what is my style? How do people see me? And there are plenty of different frameworks you can find how you can analyze your communication style. And I just wanted to bring one, the simple one for the morning, not complicate, very simple one, the one that you can remember. We can say that there are 4 main communication styles: is analytical, functional, intuitive, and personal. Let's look at them in more detail. So the analytical one, so basically every communication style has certain features, I would say. So the first is emotional level. So how emotional is your style? How emotional is your story when you tell your story? Linearity means that is it logically structured, or do you have a free form of jumping from one to another things? What are the key traits and where we can best use that? So the analytical one is emotionally very low and linear. It means that it's very like data driven, and we look at the examples, but overall it's more like a data driven logical one. For the functional one, it's a moderate, I would say, in emotions. It's not absolutely low. It's not like only like giving facts, not only data driven. It's also linear. It's also very logical, but more like detailed oriented. So the first analytical was like one fact oriented. Here it's the structure detail oriented. Intuitive is also low in emotional level, but it has a free form. It has a visionary big picture. That's something what you can maybe see sometimes when CEO are speaking, right? They need to be like they need to inspire people. They need to pitch something. They need to pitch their new business idea or whatever they plan for the next year. Or personal is very high, free form. It's very high emotionally. It's free form. It's something maybe what I did in a way, telling my story. It's my personal story. It's emotional story. It has up and downs. It has a bit of a free form, right? Because I kind of jump from one thing to another. I don't follow a structured pathway. And then we can also look at the examples. So we talk about, again, about the same topic about biodiversity. And with analytical style, what you could do is, okay, you could just, okay, our result shows 30% increase in species recovery due to habitat restoration. So this is like just fact. This is the fact. That's the percentage. That's the number, linear, low, emotional. For functional one, you could then give more of a structure, like first what we identified. So you show the logics. First, we identified the key biodiversity hotspots, and next we develop a restoration plan, and finally we monitor the species recovery. So this is like, if we go back, for example, that's what we said. It was structured. Sorry, oops. So detail-oriented and structured, right? So for the intuitive and the free form, we need to talk high level. We need to talk, okay, biodiversity isn't only about saving species, it's about remaining or reimagining how we live in harmony with nature. It's like high level. I don't need to be emotional, but just high level, my vision, where I'm going, what's my vision. And the personal is, okay, what I experienced. So I saw something in the forest. I saw the forest recover after our project. I realized how much difference it makes. So it's like really my personal, my emotional story. So for you would be, you can always change this. It's not like you're born with one communication style, but I think that you could always change this. You can always change the style depending who you're talking to. And that's, I think it's very important for you to identify what's your style and try to change them. So brand yourself, the personal brand. That's something that more and more people are talking about. And I think you need a personal brand, not only when you work in business, when you sell your business, you also need your personal brand because you would like to be remembered for something. And you would like it. I suggest that you pick the one thing. Wherever it is in your research, wherever you do, make people remember you for one thing. No one will remember a lot of facts about you, but people might remember one thing that's important. What's your value? And branding is really not about selling yourself, because I also hear very often when it comes to interview, I don't know how to sell myself. You need to sell yourself. You need to just shape understanding, how people understand you. It's not about selling yourself. Just make sure people understand you. So I would ask yourself these questions. What do I want to be known for? Like maybe if we have a few minutes, maybe you can write in the chat. We can also discuss it later. So what would you like to be known for? If you would need to really call out one thing, what would it be? Then another one is, what makes my work meaningful? Why do I work on that? Why do I want people to know me for this? And how do I want people to feel after speaking to me? Do I want to be someone who inspires? Do I want to be someone who brings the facts? Or do I want people to know my personal story, So, but like, answer this question in the chat or for yourself. What do I want to be known for? So know your audience. This is also very, very important. Whoever is your audience, your friend, your family, hiring manager, in the conference, there are other scientists, whoever it is, always try to ask yourself, what motivates this audience? What is their value? And for example, the policymaker wants an impact, right? The journalist wants clarity. So when you talk to journalists, when you want clarity, details about what you're working on. Or industry partner, for example, or business, they want the potential, how what you worked on could influence to their business, would help them to earn more money. And public wants to more curiosity, more relevance, how it's relevant for their life. So in you really depending, okay, I know my style, right? One, I know my audience, and I know how to tell the story to this audience. So this is relevant to them, and they will remember and they will listen to me. Because I think nowadays is really the biggest gift is attention, right? Like, did people really give their attention? They're not on their phone, they're not on their laptop, they're not talking to someone next to them, they're actually listening. And this gift is not easily anymore to get, right? And that's why you always need to think who I am, who the people next to me, how do I communicate with them? And that's the how. Tell your story. So really tell your story, connect the data, connect the emotions and meaning, follow the clear structure, follow one of the structures, practice different ones, and also practice different styles. And it will be super interesting to practice different style depending on your audience. So I think I'm done.
Thank you very much, Alona, for the great talk. I think before we continue, we can stop the recording, Jen.